administrative things, and a couple of interesting meetings. Of course, kanina lang, I think you guys had a glimpse of dun sa interview natin with Justice Ascuna. By the way, speaking of Justice, former Associate Justice Adolfo Ascuna, thank you so much, our really isa sa ating mga beloved jurists, talagang luminaries. Thank you very much, sir, for this very kind gift, and also of course for your very kind dedication, Justice. Ito yung dedication ni Justice, diba? Thank you so much, Justice, for that very kind dedication. Thank you for your as a take on truth and power. Okay, that's quite a safe one, I would say. Speaking truth to power naman tayo. But sige, yung take din natin on truth and power. So thank you very much again sa ating good Justice Ascuna. As you can see, kanina lang sa TV5 at One News, medyo lumabas na yung mga highlights ng conversation din natin. Aside from yung pinost ko kanina, nandito sa mga different websites natin, sa shorts natin, sa Facebook natin, pinost natin. Basically, to give you a sense of that conversation, former Justice Ascuna, apparently, I think 4 of his former students are now in the Supreme Court. So talagang solid OG talaga yan, in the greatest sense of the word. He still remains quite cautiously optimistic that things could still turn out for the best. So para sa akin naman, the least we can, the least bad thing we can avoid is the least good thing we can do rather is just not to be fatalistic and give in dito sa mga DDS narrative na triumphalist. Mukhang may Thanksgiving pa. Yung isang kampo wala namang ginawa, iba naman nag-abogado para kay yan naman tayo, baka mapikon na naman isang nag-blind item sa atin na senador. Bakit apektado talaga yung mga iba dyan? Ginamit pa niya yung mga malamalu na definition, panibasa, walang alam sa konsepto ng public intellectual, public thinkers, not to be overly pretentious about it. But again, thank you very much again, Justice, for this fantastic memoir. Suggest ko rin Justice Carpio should come up with his own if wala pa siya. And this is recommended by former Justice Davide, Chief Justice Davide, and former Chief Justice also Panganiban, also whom we have discussed, whose take we also discussed on this little show of ours. Just to give you a gist, basically, unang-una, walang kwenta yung sinabi ni Kilay Boy na nung panahon daw nila Justice Ascuna na kinaren daw nila yung Congress, kaya hindi yan totoo. They pleaded to the Congress regarding a certain impeachment issue, and out of certain courtesy and all, nagkaroon ng certain adjustment. But they never during his time, yun yung maintain ni Justice Ascuna, they never commanded or ordered the co-equal branch of the state to do something, X, Y, and Z. And that's precisely where he's coming from. Kasi sa kanyang palagay, ang basa niya is, if you look at the Supreme Court ruling, it's not only an interpretation of the Constitution and whether the procedures were followed, but it's an introduction of new procedures, or in some way, some would say, essentially, overreaching, right? That would be what certain critics would also, how certain critics would put it. More than that, of course, very importantly, again, Tito Soto has been sounding a little bit fatalistic about it, but isa sa mga framers, according sa isa mga leading jurists natin, the fact na hindi na dismiss, nataling motion for dismissal ni Marcoleta, that means that hindi ibig sabihin tapos ng laban. In fact, the fact na it was basically archived means you can also archive it out, right? Pwede mo ilabas, diba? The same way you can archive it in, you can archive it out. Parang lang, interim release yan. Pwede mo ikulong, pwede mo interim release yung isa na archive sa ICC, mga ganun, diba? So parang ganun yun, diba? So for all the criticism we can make of Jesus Cordero, at least he prevented the worst case scenario, which is first dismissal, which was what Team DDS was pushing for in 19th Congress, and in this case, dismissal. Basically, that's what the Team DDS has been pushing for in 19th Congress and 20th Congress. At least we avoided that. So in theory, may paka de facto deferral lang nangyari dito. Meaning, if, and this is where I'm not necessarily as cautiously optimistic as some of these ex-justices, just in case, let's say the Supreme Court reverses itself, let's say 8 justices change their mind, they say in light of new facts, in light of itong mga new motions for reconsideration na de facto oral arguments na ngayon, in lieu of new parang clarifications, including clarification, by the way, by ABS-CBN, which clarified na yung reports nila doon sa basically yung calendar days and all, mukhang mali yata yung paggamit sa at hindi yun ang exact facts of the case. So meron pa rin chance, at least 50-50 yung chance na baka nga magkakaroon ng certain amendments or changes dun sa Supreme Court ruling. And hindi alam ni Marcoleta yan, but actually there have been multiple cases whereby the Supreme Court reversed itself, including a case whereby it unanimously reversed a unanimous decision, right? So we're talking about the ISAA case versus Greenpeace. At ito yung that whole Talong Harry Roque case we were talking about, right? Yung issue ng GMO or parang yung pinalaki na talong dahil with I don't know, with chemical whatever, right? Hindi naman tayo bioscientist, but yung mga biotechnologists na eventually nag-provide ng information and facts that convinced the court to actually reverse itself. So we have all of these cases, including itong talong case na involve actually si Harry Roque back in the days, na itong I don't know, enlarged talong, the modified GMO talong, whatever. At the end of the day, actually nagkaroon ng reversal in lieu of new facts of the case. Now, having said that, guys, so basically we got, at least from one interpretation, not a dismissal but a deferral. Definitely we didn't get a dismissal because that motion was defeated. But this archiving, in theory, leaves room for maneuver and revival. And now we're hearing actually you need less than half a dozen senators, or just about half a dozen senators. You actually can revive the trial in the Senate just in case. Again, we're not saying mangyayari 100%, just in case ang ginawa ng Supreme Court was to make certain revisions in lieu of the facts that have been clarified in multiple motion for reconsideration at saka status quo ex ante interventions also. There was one, again, today naman was Makabayan Block, just as I mentioned the other day, gagawin nila yan. But there were also another motion for reconsideration and also interventions na basically wag mo natin i-dismiss. So, as much as we are critical of Jesus Codera, in fairness naman, he didn't completely, hindi pa deads yung trial. So, hindi ko alam bakit excited masyado mag-Thanksgiving yung iba. Hindi naman sila nag-abogado. Iba yung doon ako natutuwa. Yung mga nagle-lecture sa atin na how to be a neutral political analyst. Baka gusto naman natin i-lecture yung mga ibang kaibigan natin how to be a neutral, or at least konting effort naman, na hindi mo hang DDS senator naman ang dating natin, di ba? Medyo masyado naman obvious. But anyways, going back to this, guys, there's also this very serious issue of so this is where we were talking about prospective overruling or the doctrine of operative fact. Kasi ang concern din dito is hindi lang ito about Sara Duterte. At dito talaga mali yung sinabi ng isang senador na mahilig blind item. Hindi ito about Sara Duterte alone, precisely because this will apply to any impeachment case in the future, including impeachment cases that could involve the justices, right? So that's why I'm concerned dito. It's not only about Sara Duterte, but how the rules of the game have completely changed with this ruling by the Supreme Court. So let's just hope for the best on this, and with all due respect, of course, to the Supreme Court and all of that. And then, of course, there's also this bigger problematic issue na minention natin kanina, which is anong klaseng pag-iisip yan na sasabihin mo, idaan na lang natin sa election ng issues ng rule of law and accountability. And dito naman sablay na naman yung sinabi ni Cheese, which is like, pagod na taong sa politika, pagod na kaya ganyan. Yeah, of course, gusto natin mag-focus sa issue ng bigas, issue ng presyo ng mga bilihin, etc. Pero yun nga, tamang-tama yung sinabi ni Chel Joc, no? Isang tunay na legal luminary na talagang incomparable yung kanyang legal credentials dun sa isang magandang kilay. Basically, ang point kasi ni Chel is correct. Kaya nga tayo may kahirapan dahil alam mo naman, di ba? Tingnan mo naman na saan napunta yung mga pera sa flood control. Tingnan mo naman na namigi-mango yung mga confidential fund. Hindi talaga tayo magkakaroon ng economic development and inclusive development kung yung kaban ng bayan ay kung saan napupunta. So actually, corruption is part of the problem. And if you want to serve the people and deal with their fundamental problems, you deal with corruption. Even though, of course, my fundamental argument is that it goes beyond just the issue of good governance. It's also about industrial policy, trade policy. That argument stands. But tama rin na issues of accountability are important, because if hindi accountable yung government, kung hayaan lang natin ng mga kurakot ng mga kurakot, at kalimutan lang natin, move on na lang tayo, lalong talaga mahirapan yung taong bayan. At dapat nga sana, kaysa umasa ang mga kababayan natin dun sa ayuda, sa yung mga, alam mo na, mga self-styled health initiatives na kung sino-sino, dapat ito ay universal healthcare. At this goes through the PhilHealth, this goes through the state institutions. Hindi tayo dapat umasa sa mga individual politicians or self-serving or self-styled politicians when it comes to fundamental issues, diba? Pero kung may corruption nga, yan ang mangyayari na pa-personalize ang welfare issues. At nagkakaroon ng ayuda politics and worse, flood control economics, diba? So, kaya sablay talaga yung argument ni Cheese na sinasabi niya. Parang basically, ano yan, gulo. Hindi, issue ng accountability yan eh. Now, obviously, corruption cuts across the political spectrum. We can talk about that. But you have to start somewhere. And if kung sobrang namigi-mango na obvious na may nangyari, tingnan natin na mabuti. At kung talagang yung mga migi-mango, ano na yan, na lahat para sa signature, ay wala lang pala yun, di okay, daan natin sa trial. So, bakit parang takot na takot mag-trial ng ibang kaibigan? Bakit parang ang saya-saya nila na walang trial? Kung talagang walang ginawang masama, di ba? Sabi nga ni Bato, back in the day, kung wala ka namang ginawang mali, wala kang ikakatakot. Ang dami na nga yung ka-DDS dyan sa di ba? Hindi talaga, ma-quit talaga kayo. Unless, takot kayo na may ma-expose. But ibang usapan yan. Anyways, so ang dami sablay at saka yung idea na iwanan natin sa election bago tayo magkaroon ng... Dude, elections is not about... elections is about choosing what leaders and kaya nga meron tayong court systems, judicial system, at nasa saligang batas natin, officials should be accountable all the time, hindi lang during election period, hindi lang every 3 years or 6 years, all the time dapat accountable sila. At hindi ito popularity contest. At guys, aminin naman natin, ilan bang mga kurakot na nanalo pa rin sa mga politika, diba, nanalo sa elections. Minsan nga, kung sino pa mas kurakot, yung pa guys, sino man niloko natin dito? Kaya sobrang sablay yung argument na hintayin nyo na lang 2020 ganun. Anyway, speaking of 2028, kanina, we didn't only have a conversation with Justice Ascuna, but we also had a conversation with other people na, who I think, whose opinions and stance and understanding will have a bearing on what are going to be the alignments or counter-alignments come 2028. And actually, this is where, let me say that 100% hindi sure shot na mananalo si Sara Duterte. First of all, there could be still an impeachment. The Supreme Court can still reverse it. Pero even if none of these things happen, sabihin natin hindi mangyari impeachment and all. Tama actually si BBM. Sabi niya hindi naman na-acquit eh. Hindi naman yung Supreme Court ruling ay may kinalaman sa issue ng substance of yung accusations eh. In fact nga, bumababa yung approval rating ni Sara Duterte dahil nga, siguro doon sa ibang kababayan natin, by the way, 80% ng kababayan natin, sasabi nila, kung wala namang ginawa, may trial para matapos na, di ba? Magkakaalaman na, di ba? Kung wala naman talaga, di klaroin mo yung pangalan mo, di ba? It looks like it actually could backfire. Kasi parang mukhang sinishield siya. Parang ganun ang dating. I'm not saying that's what's happening, pero parang ganun ang dating. Because parang, wow, wala man lang trial just for us to see what's going on. Wala, diba? So, actually, yung argument na tapos ng laban, mananalo na si Sara, 28 tayo magkikita-kita, like, hello, how many times did we see significant ups and downs in numbers of Sara Duterte? Yes, she saw some up earlier this year because nagkaroon ng sympathy vote sa mga DDS in light of what happened to former President Digong. But now her numbers are going down again. And we have seen how dynamic and how unstable rather yung mga yung kanyang approval ratings and all, diba? At one point malapit na siya sa numbers ng tatay niya. Ngayon, mas malapit ang number niya dun sa panahon ni Lenny, when Lenny was really marginalized, kaya believe ko rin kay Lenny how she was able to hold it through and even do so well in 2022 elections kahit talagang disinformation, number one victim of disinformation ng Team Kasamaan, Team Kadiliman, talagang right and left, diba? So the fact that Sara's number could go as down and similar to what Lenny was suffering at some point because of disinformation attacks and all of that, that tells you that, hello, sure shot na, 100%. Saan natin sinong hen yung mga nagsasabi dyan? Now, speaking of that, kanina may mga kausap tayo and we were talking about, okay, ganito kasi mangyari. If talaga this is gonna be Sara running in 2028, sabihin natin hindi si Bongo, right? Bongo is another dark horse, right? Number 1 sa Senate, right-hand man ni Digong, message discipline, very organized, the whole malasakit issue, magaling, di ba? Magaling I'm talking about politics, I'm not talking about merit or whatever. Sabihin natin for some reason, there will not be a move by Bongo to run for presidency at hindi mas-split yung DDS base. We know that the DDS base can fluctuate from between 15 to all the way 40+%. So there's a soft Duterte vote and then there's a hardcore Duterte vote, right? And then there's a regionalized one and then there's a more nationwide one. Now, sa economics and also political theory, may term na elasticity. So there's an elasticity of support, which the elasticity is way lower in certain areas and way higher in other areas. So it can go from 15 to 35, 40, even 45%, right? So for instance, if we look at the best performing DDS candidates in last elections, barely 50%? And it's hard to say that they were voted as senators because of the Duterte factor lang, right? Remember, sa presidency, you can only choose one, hindi 12, right? Now, let me lay out the other side of this argument. Because kahapon I was talking about how strong Leni would be as a potential top contender for the presidency. Kaya sabi ko dun sa mga kaibigan natin, huwag kayong magtotka, the one that got away. Because after all, Leni is still considered as one of the top contenders to be the next president of the Philippines. And in fact, in theory, right, she could have really her moment in 2028, especially given how great Leni is performing as a mayor. And we're 100% sure she's going to have so many achievements into the 2028 should she decide to run. But having said that, it's also very possible that Leni will not run for the presidency in 2028, right? Because, syempre, alam naman one term lang, tapos ano na kaagad, diba? And what if her numbers in the surveys don't go to so overwhelmingly high numbers? Kasi you have to work the coalition, diba? Coalition building din yan, diba? Like, just look at how variable numbers are once people, their realignments. I mean, like, just look at Digong's number from, sabihin natin, October or September 2015 all the way to March 2016, right? Or look at the numbers of Pinoy from, let's say, November 2009 all the way to March 2010, right? Extremely variable numbers. Or numbers ni BBM from second quarter of 2021 to eventual number 60% plus, right? Nanalo. So there's so many factors that make you think maybe Leni will not indeed run for the presidency in 2020. Even though, as I said, in theory, she's a very strong contender. I imagine a lot of people will extremely, be extremely happy if Leni makes another try at the presidency. I think a lot of people would be very certain that as Leni presidency will not only bring a tremendous amount of compassionate politics and competence, but also could give a completely new vibe to Philippine democracy and all. I have Singaporean friends na award-winning global leaders, young leaders, na idol nila si Leni Robredo. I'm telling you, she has fans around the world, including in Singapore, among progressive, genius kids. No, I can, baka minsan pwede ko interviewin yung mga kaibigan natin na foreigners, Singaporean, European, etc. na gusto nila si Leni. Believe na believe sila kay Leni, and they were so impressed with the pink revolution that Leni launched basically in 2022, and now in 2025 the kind of a pink transformation that she's bestowing upon the great people of Naga, right? Now, having said that, there's still a chance that Leni will not run. And there's a chance that maybe her numbers will not be so high, overwhelming, for her to say, parang one term lang, tas alis na ako sa, di ba? Remember, Vico stayed for 3 terms. Magalong also dun sa Baguio staying for 3 terms. Kasi ang idea nila is, if you really want to transform a city, you need to build infrastructure, you have to clean up the system, and dahil mong ayusin. So 1 term will not be enough. So there's a very high possibility that actually Leni might not run. Now, will Bam make a move? Maybe. Yeah, I won't be surprised that if Leni doesn't run, maybe Bam will make a move. And maybe Leni will endorse Bam. But, in a scenario whereby actually Leni does not run, and Leni basically sticks to the same thing that she did in 2022 when she passed down the baton to Risa, there's actually a very strong case to make also for Risa. Now, when it comes to merit, when it comes sa tapang, talino, lahat, napag-usapan na natin yan. I'm not gonna rehash it para hindi tayo mukhang fanboying, right? As I said, my standards are actually quite different, but I don't wanna go there. Anyway, maging mukhang mayabang naman tayo. But, mukhang, kasi hindi naman talaga, mabait naman tayo. No, but my point is, there is actually a very strong argument to also make for Riza. You know why? Because the situation with Leni or Bam, sabihin natin, is that it's hard to see how loyalists and, let's say, even BBM or people who are not necessarily who are against the DS side, like it's hard. Let's be honest. In 2016 to 2022, it was a very bitter situation between supporters of BBM and Lenny, right? Supporters of Lenny, nababastosan sila sa supporters ni BBM kasi kinu-question yung mandato ni Lenny, who won fair and square, and multiple times sa Supreme Court, lumabas na talaga nanalo siya. In fact, lumaki pa nga yung kanyang agwat, no? But supporters of Marcos BBM maintain talaga siya yung tunay na VP, blah, 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 etc. So, there's a lot of bitterness there. Then there's the Bam, Aquino aspect, and Marcos. Right now, I know Philippines is Philippines. I know it's shifting alliances, blah, 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 blah. Yes, I know that. But I'm having a hard time seeing actually the BBM support base or even the BBM administration teaming up with Lenny against Sara Duterte or DDS team in 2028. I'm having quite a hard time there. So kanina I was having just some conversation with some people who should know something about this, and they were also cool to the idea. Tingin nila malabo na magkakaroon ng tactical alliance or ayaw na natin gamitin yung term na unity, yaki na. Let's use the term popular front or front populaire, right? There's a lot of skepticism around that. As I said, A, there's a skepticism that Lenny will run again. B, there's a skepticism that there could be kind of a Aquino/Lenny kind of an unofficial team up with BBM, etc. And if you look at 2025 elections, and you look at it, and this is where, again, I don't agree with the cadence and the approach that Sentry took, but we cannot also deny that when it comes to Lenny, we are yet to hear from her very strident attacks on Duterte when it comes to issues of ICC, impeachment, etc. And the same thing exactly goes for Bam. So, in short, my sense is, from talking to people who know their stuff, there is going to be a mutual apprehension. I don't think Lenny or Bam will be comfortable with any kind of de facto alliance with the admin and the lawyers, etc. against the Duterte. And I think it goes both ways. Now, this is where Riza actually could make the difference. Now, obviously, before we talk about Riza, we already discussed, and it's already on YouTube, based on, this is privately commissioned data, but we kind of spilled some beans. And actually, a Rafi Tulfo Riza team up is very, very strong. In fact, Riza's numbers go up kung team up niya si Rafi, right? Because they kind of complement each other. So Rafi Tulfo, macho, ganyan, pero pro-labor pa rin, ganyan. And then Riza, a different kind of strident toughness and inang bayan na strength, strong woman, ganyan. So maganda actually yung team up daw nila. If you look at the permutations, no? In the same way na, interestingly, malakas din yung team up daw ni Aimee and Sara. Solid North, solid South dynamics, which is interesting considering everything Aimee saying against her own brother. But anyway, it is what it is, right? So yun yung mga numbers nakita natin. But, as I said, aside from the fact that Riza has proven her strength of character, Riza has proven her mettle of leadership, Riza has proven her ethics of conviction, and her ability to remain as an iron lady even of consistently nasa minority siya, and she chose to be in minority. Aside from all of those plus points and assets we discussed, unlike Lenny, patapos na yung term niya. This is her last term in Senate, and she has every reason to think about higher office. Pangalawa, she has already expressed her openness to run for a higher office, but she hindi siya Karen na parang dapat ako. Sinabi lang niya, bukas lang siya. Diba? And pangatlo, I won't be surprised that actually, while there are significant disagreements between progressives like Akbay on one hand, and the Loyalista, etc., on issues like ill-gotten wealth, human rights violations during the Marcos dictatorship, not to mention mga kung ano nangyayari ngayon, my sense is the idea that the return of Duterte's would be a total disaster and catastrophe, I think ang taas ng level ng overlap dyan, in ways that I do not necessarily see with the other candidates I mentioned, right? So in a scenario whereby Rafi Tulfo doesn't run, because in the case of Rafi Tulfo, he will be what? Late 60s na by 2020 elections. And if he loses that, that's it. Pero it's so easy for him to run for Senate. Erwin naman will have more room for maneuver, but Erwin is not idle Rafi. I don't think he he does as well, at least in surveys, etc. But you never know. I'm sure Erwin could position himself as the candidate of the admin, but my sense is also there's some coolness around that. So in theory, you can see a situation whereby even though Risa is not doing very well in the presidential one, much stronger in the vice presidential one, especially if team up with someone like Rafi, Tulfo, etc. You can imagine a situation whereby Risa could be the center of gravity of a kind of a never Duterte, save Philippines, popular front kind of alliance, whereby non-partisan people na ayos sa mga DDS, loyalista, admin people, technocrats, anyone na galit sa mga Duterte or alam nila pag bumalik ang mga Duterte yari lahat, or not because ang gagaling-galing ng mga Duterte so whatever, but because balikan ba natin lahat ng mga di ba, that actually Risa could become kind of parang Leon Bloom style kind of a figure, right? This kind of progressive figure who becomes the center of gravity of all of this this massive coalition that goes even beyond the Pink Movement, right? Basically a kind of a counter Duterte, counter alt-right populist. Right? There are other things that come to mind. That's very possible. And in that situation, actually, Risa could be very, very competitive. And we know when it comes to Risa, sa kanyang talino, sa kanyang tapang, sa kanyang willingness to go all the way, she's gonna step up big time. And I think if it becomes clear now Lenny's not gonna run anymore, and if Lenny does not also endorse Bam as the president, and then for some reason also Rafi chooses to run for Senate na lang because for a number of combination of reasons he feels Senate na lang maybe still best for him, there's no rush, or hindi siya, then you could see a situation whereby Risa will be catapulted to that unifying never Duterte kind of grand coalition. And then the interesting conversation will be who will be the VP. Sentry obviously will be in the conversation. I'm thinking about General Torre also in the conversation. I think General Torre could be more than just a senatorial ball in 2028. No offense to senators. I mean, it's great, but why not even hire so there could be kind of a unity team of Torre and Risa, whereby there's someone from the admin not trusted by the president. I won't be surprised like it's Torre, like Torre will be the ILG secretary once he steps down. Not impossible. And he can build it from there. And then at the very least, VP material si Torre. Then suddenly Risa can become that kind of grand coalition figure. So the ideal situation for them would be Lenny endorses Risa, or at the very least doesn't endorse Bam as a kind of a rival candidate. So basically, you get a significant, not all, because there are lots of pink na, or Dilaw to be more specific, na ayaw rin kay Risa because masyadong progressive, whatever. But you still can see so many other people going to her, to Risa from all other sides, especially if you bring in Torre. And remember, Torre has Mindanao. He brings in also the Mindanao side. Yes, totoo na ngayon may away Torre versus Duterte, but at the end of the day, General Torre is from Basilan and also he has connection to Cebu and Visayas. So he brings in also that solid south side, and then Risa from the north. So there could be also very interesting dynamic there. And I cannot say more, but my sense is, talking to different forces here, a kind of Risa Torre team up, if ever Rafi Tulfo doesn't run, looks like not only not impossible, and dami negation then, negation cube, but actually could be also very competitive and compelling, right? And then in the meantime, if Sara keeps on being perceived as being shielded from accountability, and then I don't know, mag-digital nomad mode siya, nasan ba siya ngayon? Ano bang ulit? Do you get what I'm saying? So again, guys, these are scenario-based analysis. Hindi tayo Madam Auring. We don't know exactly what's going to be the future, but what we're saying is these are the scenarios we're looking at. So kanina when I was talking to some other people, etc., I was reading the room and like, yeah, actually that could look like a very compelling case. So not only in terms of merit, but also in terms of political alignments and realignments and all of that. Because I think Risa is a very never Marcos kind of figure. But Risa being Risa, I think if she becomes the president, she's the next leader, she will also look into yung mga kalokohan at mga kababalakan na nangyari more recently. But at least the Marcoses could be sure na unlike in the case of Duterte, it's going to be in accordance to rule of law at hindi yung Duterte style vengeance, right? If Risa is going to go after Marcoses or after anyone who has been engaged in abusive activities in recent years, she's not going to do it the Duterte style. She's going to go through the process. And I think the Marcoses will be far more comfortable with dealing with the rule of law than dealing with this kind of a basically civil war situation, bloodbath situation. Do you get what I'm saying here? Because eventually for Marcos, if he really doesn't have a competitive contender, he will have no choice but to support someone like Risa. And in the case of Risa, she's not the one who needs Marcos, right? She's running for the interests of the nation and for her own values, so she will not necessarily be beholden. She'll still be herself. So you can have a perfectly win-win situation there, right? Did you know this? This is the same argument that our friends made when some of our friends joined the majority. No, walang ano naman. Actually, I can see even more leverage here in the case of Risa. And I'll tell you what, I've talked to people across the political spectrum, maybe even the Dutertes, I don't know, but lahat sila, they believe sila kay Risa na ito palaban ito. Kahit mababa pa rin ang numbers na ngayon, palaban ito. And they can see in a situation by Lenny or Rafi don't run, Risa can go all the way, or at the very least, Risa is VP to someone like Rafi, or to someone. I don't see Risa being VP to Bam. I'm sorry, I just don't see that situation. I can see a situation Bam runs independently himself. But good luck winning in that situation because you no longer can count on the vote of the basically those. It's going to be a presidential race, right? So yung mga iba na nag-endorse kay Bam, na tumulong kay Bam na maging number 2, they're going to vote for DDS camp. They're going to vote for Sara. They're not going to vote for. It's going to be one-on-one, right? And Bam is not going to get the admin support. Bam is not going to get the support of Solid North. Bam is not. Then you're going to have a situation that's very weird and all of that. So anyway, you can also have a situation maybe Risa will run as VP for Bam. I don't know. Or Kiko will step up. I don't know. But what I'm saying here is that I can see a pathway here whereby actually Risa could become that Leon Bloom, Popular Front, United Front kind of candidate, and whereby she'll actually have the leverage to dictate the terms of any grand coalition rather than the other way around. So that she'll have no problem with numbers, with organization, with momentum. On that note, before I say something more, baka magalit naman mga guys, I'm just laying out 2 different scenarios, and this is based on conversation with people whose views really matter. I cannot say more, right? So parang basically I'm getting a sense of, okay, what is the views of the different parts of this potential grand coalition? Basically, never Duterte grand coalition, right? And this is where things are getting interesting. Again, without spilling beans, also as we speak, there are also ongoing efforts to make sure now we bring down tensions. Kasi recently, I don't need to repeat this again, may mga konting hidwan sa loob ng Grand Pink Movement. Please wag tayo mag-cancel culture style gano'n na eto hindi tunay na pink, ito wag mo tayong gano'n. Pink is basically neither daliman nor kasamahan. So there's some. But as we speak, there are ongoing efforts to, put things together and patch things up, and our best wishes for that. And then tomorrow, pag-usapan natin more yan with Sir Ronald Llamas. Ngayon, I think he's in important events and all of that. Huwag natin siyang guluhin. Let him do what he's doing. Alright? On that note, maraming salamat. God bless. And talk to you soon. Really, really thank you for everything, for your prayers and for your love. And sana tuloy-tuloy lang ito. And on Monday naman, we'll hope to have naman Justice Carpio with us. Monday evening naman lalabas yung buong video, kabuuan ng interview natin naman with Justice Ascuna, also about the Supreme Court ruling and all of that. Again, no matter what happens with the Supreme Court and about our politics, I think it always is nice to talk to jurists, leading jurists, legal luminaries, yung mga tunay na legal luminaries, hindi yung mga nagpi-feeling lang dyan sa Senado. Alright? On that note, thank you very much. God bless, and don't forget to follow us on different platforms. On YouTube, Deep Dive with Richard Hidaran. Libre lang mag-subscribe. Ay, hindi. Libre lang mag-follow. Konti lang, isang pick up coffee lang mag-subscribe. I'll really, really appreciate it. And don't worry, I will still try to do something. Yes, the subscribers will have something special. And also, thank you very much, guys, for all of your love and support and all of that on different platforms. Don't forget to follow us on these platforms and all. Yung mga nagpo-post ng mga numbers and votes, and remember, these are all coalition numbers. So once you have the reshuffling of the coalition, there'll be different numbers. For instance, yung 31 million na bumota kay BBM and Sara, wala na yan. Watak-watak na yan, di ba? So, certain candidates may have some solid 5 to 10 million votes, but that will not be enough to defeat Sara. Sara may have 15, 20, 25 million solid support behind her potentially. So to beat that, you need really a grand coalition. A grand coalition that cuts across the political spectrum. And yes, I do believe Risa could be that candidate. Not only because of her merit and strength, but because of the political factors I explained kanina. On that note, thank you very much. God bless and talk to you soon.